The spaceport was crowded, noisy, and bright with the colors of 100 different alien cultures. Ships of all sizes docked along the gleaming metal platforms, and travelers hurried past one another, speaking in languages Ethan did not understand. The smell of exotic foods mixed with the scent of ionized metal, creating a strange, unfamiliar aroma. For Ethan, it was just another busy day at the spaceport. Ethan was a human engineer, small in stature but quick with his hands and mind. He carried a toolkit strapped to his side, and his uniform was simple, a worn gray jumpsuit marked with the symbol of his small engineering firm. He moved with purpose, checking his datapad, making sure his schedule was clear. He was heading toward his favorite cafe, a small spot tucked between two massive docking bays. It was nothing fancy, but the cafe made a hot drink that reminded him of home, a rich, spicy beverage that warmed him after long hours of work. As he entered, his eyes scanned the room. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were seated at tables drinking strange liquids or speaking in rapid bursts of sound. At the corner table, near a large window that looked out onto the docking bay, sat a lone figure. Ethan noticed her immediately. She was an alien woman with soft lavender skin that shimmered slightly under the cafe lights. Her eyes were a deep, glimmering violet, and her long hair flowed like liquid silver over her shoulders. She wore elegant clothing, finely crafted and clearly expensive, but her posture was slightly stiff, as if she did not belong in the casual atmosphere of the cafe. The woman looked confused, staring at a holographic menu in front of her. She pressed a few buttons and the screen changed. Then she pressed again, but the selection was wrong. Ethan realized she was struggling with the machine. Her language was different from the standard dialect used in the cafe. A few nearby aliens glanced at her impatiently, but no one helped. Without thinking, Ethan walked over. "Need a hand?" he asked in his clear, calm voice. The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes widened slightly and she tilted her head. "Yes, please," she said, her voice soft but accented. Ethan knelt beside the machine and quickly figured out the problem. The ordering system was set to the local dialect by default, and she had accidentally switched it to another language. He tapped a few buttons, and soon the screen displayed her desired drink. "Here you go," Ethan said with a small smile. "I'll pay for it. Consider it a welcome to the station." The woman's eyes widened again and she shook her head. I cannot accept. It is unnecessary." Ethan laughed softly. "Sometimes kindness doesn't need a reason. It's just kindness." He handed over a few credits to complete the transaction. For a moment she looked at him, studying him as if she were trying to understand him. Then she smiled, a small, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Thank you. Very much. You are unusual." Ethan shrugged. "I get that a lot," he said, grinning. They shared a brief moment of silence, watching the other travelers pass by. Then the woman spoke again, her voice lighter now. "I am Lyra." "Ethan," he replied, extending his hand. They shook hands, and she marveled at the roughness of his palms. "I come from a small engineering firm, just a human who likes to fix things." Lyra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "A human who helps strangers? It is rare to find someone like you in this station. Most are too busy with personal gain." Ethan smiled modestly. "Maybe I'm lucky, or maybe I just like seeing people happy." She laughed softly, a melodic sound that seemed to linger in the air. "Perhaps luck is on your side, Ethan, or perhaps it is fate." Ethan looked at her, intrigued but unsure what to say. Their brief conversation was interrupted by the arrival of her drink. Steam rose from the cup in delicate curls, and a sweet, spicy aroma filled the air. Lyra accepted the cup carefully, as if it were precious. She took a small sip, and her eyes widened slightly. "This is excellent," she said. Ethan laughed. "Glad you like it. It's my favorite. I come here every week just for this drink." They talked for a few more minutes, exchanging small stories about their lives. Ethan shared a little about his work, fixing engines and repairing small ships. He explained how he loved solving problems and making life easier for others. Lyra listened intently, occasionally asking questions about his work and the human way of life. She seemed fascinated by his simplicity, his honesty, and the way he moved through the world without pretense. Finally, Ethan glanced at his data pad. He realized he needed to leave for a scheduled repair on a nearby freighter. I should get going, big job waiting for me. Lyra nodded, her expression thoughtful. Yes, of course, but thank you again, Ethan, for the drink and the help. Ethan shrugged again. It was nothing, just a small favor. You're welcome. He turned to leave, but before he could take more than a few steps, Lyra called softly, Ethan. He looked back. She smiled again, a little brighter than before. Perhaps we will meet again. Ethan smiled and nodded. Maybe we will, Lyra. Then he stepped out of the cafe and into the bustling spaceport once more, unaware that he had just left an impression far deeper than he could imagine. As Ethan walked down the crowded walkway, Lyra watched him from the window. Her eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. She did not speak to anyone, did not move from her seat. Her mind was already turning, calculating possibilities, imagining what life might be like with someone like him in it. She was a billionaire heiress, a woman of power and influence in multiple star systems. Her family expected her to secure an heir, someone to continue their legacy. Yet here in this simple cafe, she had encountered someone who reminded her that life could be more than obligations and expectations. Lyra's advisors often told her that wealth, strategy, and influence were the keys to survival. But for the first time in her long, carefully managed life, she wondered if there was value in kindness, honesty, and simple human connection. Meanwhile, Ethan did not realize the significance of his actions. To him, he had simply helped a stranger and shared a small moment of conversation. It was what humans often called a good deed. Little did he know that this simple act of paying for a hot drink would set in motion events that could change the course of not only Lyra's life, but also his own. That night, Ethan returned to his small quarters aboard the space station. He cleaned his tools, ate a simple meal, and prepared for the next day's work. Yet he could not shake the image of the alien woman with violet eyes and silver hair. Something about her lingered in his mind, a sense of curiosity and intrigue he could not explain. Across the station, in the luxury of her private quarters, Lyra stared at the stars outside her window. She held the small cup she had carried from the cafe, now empty, but the warmth of the drink and the memory of Ethan's kindness stayed with her. She made a decision then, quietly but firmly. She would find him again, not because of status or duty, but because she wanted to understand this human who had stirred something in her heart. And so, in the busy, noisy, and chaotic life of the spaceport, two lives had quietly crossed paths. One, a humble human engineer, simple and unassuming. The other, a powerful alien heiress bound by duty and expectation. Neither knew what the future held, but fate, or perhaps chance, had begun a story that would span worlds, challenge customs, and prove that true connection can transcend wealth, species, and status. As the stars twinkled beyond the station, Ethan dreamed of engines and machines, unaware that a different kind of adventure was already on the horizon. And Lyra, billionaire and heiress, dreamed of something more human. Friendship, trust, and perhaps the beginning of a bond that could change everything. The universe had started a quiet story that would soon grow into a remarkable journey. One that would teach both human and alien the true value of heart, courage, and kindness. The next morning, Ethan returned to his small engineering workshop aboard the space station. The hum of machinery filled the air, and the scent of lubricants and hot metal clung to the room. He liked it here. The work was honest, the hours long, but rewarding, and the tasks kept his mind sharp. As he tightened a joint on a ship's engine, he could not shake the memory of the alien woman from the cafe, Lyra. He shook his head and laughed quietly. She's just someone I helped, nothing more. Yet deep down, he could not deny that he felt curious about her. Her unusual eyes, her calm voice, and the small smile that seemed to linger in his mind had left an impression he could not easily forget. Meanwhile, Lyra was far from idle. Back in her luxurious private cruiser, she had spent the night thinking about the human engineer. She had explored the possibility that she could contact him through her resources, but she hesitated. It was one thing to be powerful and wealthy. It was another to interfere directly in someone's life. And yet, something about Ethan called to her, a quality she had not seen in anyone for decades: honesty, simplicity, and a willingness to act. Kindly without expectation. By mid-morning, Lyra had made her decision. She instructed her ship's communication system to locate Ethan's workshop and send a message. She wrote carefully, using language she knew he would understand. Message: Ethan, thank you again for your kindness. I would like to invite you to visit my cruiser. There is much I wish to show you. Please come at your convenience. Lyra, Ethan's communicator beeped with the incoming message. He paused in surprise. Messages from strangers were not unusual, but the tone was polite, formal, and personal. He read it twice. From Lyra, he murmured, his brow furrowed. He remembered the cafe, her smile, and her strange, curious gaze. His heart beat a little faster. Well, she did say she might meet again. He hesitated. Visiting a private cruiser of a stranger could be risky, yet something inside him told him this was not a typical stranger. His curiosity won over caution. He replied simply, Message: I will come. Thank you for the invitation. The communication ended and Ethan prepared for his journey. He changed into a clean jumpsuit, checked his tools, and left his workshop with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. This was not the usual routine of engine repairs and small ship fixes. Meanwhile, Lyra's cruiser waited in a quiet docking bay. The ship was a marvel of engineering and luxury, sleek lines and smooth surfaces reflecting the light of the station. It was both imposing and elegant, a floating palace in the vast spaceport. Lyra stood at the entrance as Ethan approached, her posture formal yet relaxed, as if greeting someone she already trusted. Ethan, she said, her voice calm but warm, thank you for coming. He nodded, feeling slightly out of place. Thank you for inviting me, Lyra. Your ship, it's impressive. Lyra smiled faintly. It is a home, a workspace, and a symbol of responsibility. But today, it is simply a place to talk. She motioned for him to follow. As they walked through the corridors of the cruiser, Ethan could not help but notice the difference between this place and his small workshop. Every surface gleamed, and the technology was far beyond what he had ever seen. Holographic displays floated in midair, robotic assistants moved efficiently without speaking, and the air was filled with a gentle hum of engines and life support systems. Despite the grandeur, Ethan did not feel overwhelmed. Lyra's presence was calming, and she guided him through the ship with quiet confidence. They reached a small lounge with comfortable seating and a large viewport showing the spaceport. Below, Ethan sat, feeling both amazed and slightly nervous. Lyra offered him a drink, a simple warm beverage that she had prepared herself. I wanted to provide something familiar, she said. Ethan smiled politely and accepted. They talked, slowly. At first about the station, the ships and the technology around them. Lyra asked questions, not just about his skills, but about his life, his family, and his thoughts. Ethan found himself opening up, sharing small stories about human traditions, his love for engineering, and the quiet satisfaction he found in helping others. Lyra listened intently, nodding occasionally, her eyes thoughtful. You have a perspective many overlook, she said. Your kindness, it is rare, and yet, it is powerful in its own way. Ethan laughed softly. I never thought kindness was powerful. I just do what I think is right. Lyra smiled faintly, a hint of something deeper in her expression. That is why I invited you. I wanted to understand someone like you, someone not influenced by wealth or power. Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. He had met wealthy travelers before, but none had shown this kind of genuine interest in him as a person. I don't know what to say. You need not say anything, Lyra replied calmly. I simply wish to spend time with someone authentic. That is difficult in my world. As the conversation continued, Ethan began to notice subtle clues that Lyra's life was far more complicated than he had imagined. A soft chime from a nearby console indicated incoming messages, and Lyra glanced at them briefly before ignoring them. She explained that much of her family and business world demanded her attention constantly, yet she preferred moments like this, moments free from expectation. Ethan realized that this was no ordinary invitation. Lyra was testing him not with tasks or challenges but by observing his reactions to her world. She watched how he treated the ship's staff, how he reacted to technology, and how he conversed without flattery or fear. After a time, Lyra guided Ethan to the observation deck, where the vastness of space stretched out before them. Stars glimmered, like tiny jewels, and ships of all sizes moved gracefully in the station's orbit. Ethan stood in awe. Most see space as distant and cold, Lyra said softly. I see opportunity, potential, and responsibility. But sometimes I wish I could see it simply, as you do, without calculation or expectation. Ethan looked at her. Maybe that's because I don't have billions of credits or a family, empire to worry about. I just live day by day, trying to do my best. Lyra's expression softened. And that is why you intrigue me. You remind me that life can be more than duty and obligation. Perhaps it can also be simple and sincere. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest, not from the drink but from her words. He realized that he was beginning to understand her, and perhaps she was beginning to understand him. Yet even in this calm moment, there were reminders of the outside pressures she faced. A small hollow message flashed briefly on a console, showing a family council requesting her presence. Lyra's fingers hovered for a moment before she dismissed it silently. She did not want to disrupt the time with Ethan. Over the next few hours, they explored the cruiser together. Ethan was amazed at the advanced technology, engines far beyond his experience, holographic simulations, and automated systems that responded to thought and voice. Yet he never felt out of place. Lyra's calm demeanor and casual explanations made him comfortable, and he even pointed out a few technical adjustments that could improve efficiency, a fact that made her smile. You have an engineer's mind, she said, clearly impressed. It is refreshing to meet someone who can think beyond what is written or expected. Ethan laughed softly. I guess I'm lucky that way, or maybe stubborn. I like solving problems no matter the scale. As the day drew to a close, Lyra led Ethan back to the lounge. The two sat quietly, watching the spaceport lights twinkle below. Lyra seemed contemplative, her eyes distant but focused on Ethan at the same time. You should know, she said finally. My life is complicated. I have responsibilities and expectations that may be difficult for someone like you to understand. Ethan looked at her, curious and calm. I don't know about that. I just know I like meeting new people. And if you're complicated, well, maybe that's okay. Lyra laughed softly, a musical sound that seemed to float in the air. Perhaps it is. Perhaps we will see where this goes. Before he left, she handed him a small personal communicator. If you ever wish to visit again or if you have questions, use this. I do not send this to everyone. Ethan held it carefully, feeling the weight of the gesture. Thank you, Lyra. I'll be careful, but I will keep in touch. As he returned to his quarters later that evening, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. He had no idea what lay ahead, but he knew that something in his life had changed. The encounter with Lyra had opened a door into a world far beyond his small engineering shop, a world of stars, power, and possibility. And across the station, Lyra watched the docking bay from her cruiser's viewport. Her mind was already planning, imagining what might happen if she continued to involve Ethan in her life. She knew the pressures of her empire would not disappear, but for the first time she felt hope. Perhaps there was a way to balance duty with personal connection. Perhaps this human engineer could show her a life that was richer in ways beyond wealth or influence. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and opportunities. But for Ethan and Lyra, a simple cup of hot drink had started a journey that neither could have anticipated. The path ahead would test their trust, courage, and understanding, but it would also reveal that true connection could bridge worlds and species, wealth and simplicity, expectation and freedom. Ethan's visits to Lyra's cruiser became a routine of curiosity and fascination. Each time he stepped aboard, he felt like he was entering a world both magical and overwhelming. Yet Lyra's presence made it feel familiar. She guided him calmly, explaining technologies he had never imagined, sharing stories of distant planets, and even letting him see some of the workings of her empire in small, safe ways. Despite the luxury and power surrounding him, Ethan remained himself. Modest, honest, and curious. He repaired a minor issue in one of her transport engines, adjusted a small calibration on a life support system, and even offered suggestions for fuel efficiency. Lyra watched him quietly, clearly impressed not only by his skill, but also by his humility. Yet Lyra had more than curiosity in mind. Beneath the calm, gracious demeanor she showed Ethan, there was a carefully calculated observation. Her family had pressured her for years to secure an heir, a partner who was not only intelligent and capable but also trustworthy and morally sound. Most of the candidates her advisors suggested were ambitious, strategic, or simply wealthy. None had her interest. Ethan, however, was different. One evening, as the stars outside shimmered like diamonds, Lyra invited Ethan to a quiet chamber in the cruiser. The room was simple compared to the rest of the ship. A small library, comfortable, chairs and a large viewport showing the sprawling station below. The setting was intentionally unassuming. She wanted to observe Ethan's natural behavior without distractions. "Ethan," Lyra began softly, "you have been here several times now. I am curious. Do you understand how unusual this is?" Ethan shook his head, puzzled. I don't really know. I just enjoy learning, seeing new things and, well, meeting new people." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is precisely why I invited you. Most people who enter my world are distracted by wealth, by status, or by power. You are not." Ethan felt a flush of pride and embarrassment at the same time. I never thought of myself that way. I'm just a simple engineer. I fix things, I help people, and I try to do the right thing. That's all." "That is remarkable," Lyra said, leaning back in her chair. "Most cannot do what you do. Most cannot resist the lure of influence or money. You are rare." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "I guess I just don't care much about that stuff. I care about what's right, and I care about people." Lyra's eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel something beyond calculation. "Perhaps that is why I feel drawn to you. You remind me that life can have meaning beyond strategy, expectation, and control." Ethan looked at her, unsure what to say. His mind was simple but honest, and he sensed the gravity behind her words. I don't know what to say. I'm not special or important in your world." "You are more important than you realize," Lyra said quietly, "not because of wealth or status, but because of who you are. That matters more than anything else in my world." For a moment they sat in silence, the hum of the ship filling the room. Ethan felt a strange mix of nervousness and excitement. He had never been in a position where someone of such power noticed him, not because he wanted attention, but because they truly appreciated his character. Yet, even in this quiet, Lyra's mind was active. Her advisors had noticed Ethan's presence. Some were skeptical, warning that a human engineer was unfit to be close to someone with her responsibilities. Others whispered that he could be a distraction or even a threat. Lyra, however, weighed their warnings against her own judgment. She saw honesty, courage, and intelligence in Ethan, qualities that could not be measured in credits or influence. Later that evening, Lyra invited Ethan to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around them, and the soft lights of the station reflected off the cruiser's polished surfaces. "Ethan," she said, voice calm, "I must tell you something. My life is complicated. My family expects me to secure an heir, someone who can share responsibility for the empire I oversee. They want someone strategic, capable, and obedient to protocol. That is not you, nor do I expect it to be. But you offer something they cannot. You offer honesty, courage, and heart. These are rare qualities, and they are exactly what I need. Ethan's eyes widened. You want me for that? Lyra nodded slowly. Not for obligation, not for duty, but because I trust you. Because I see the person you are and the person you could be beside me. Ethan felt a mix of confusion, awe, and fear. He had never imagined being part of someone else's world in this way. Lyra, I don't know what to say. I'm just a human. I fix machines and try to help people. And yet, Lyra said softly, that is exactly why you are extraordinary. You do not seek reward or recognition. You do not seek power. You simply do what is right. That is a strength no wealth can buy. Ethan looked at her speechless. He had always believed that simple actions mattered, but he had never realized how impactful they could be to someone else. Lyra's words filled him with a strange sense of purpose he had never felt before. As the days passed, Ethan continued to visit the cruiser. Lyra allowed him to explore more of the ship, and they spent hours talking about technology, culture, and philosophy. She showed him simulations of distant planets, explained the challenges of governing a multi-system empire, and even let him suggest minor improvements to her engineering systems. Each time Ethan impressed her, not because of ambition, but because of his honesty, problem-solving skills, and natural curiosity. Yet the outside world was not idle. Lyra's family and business advisors continued to monitor Ethan. Some were suspicious, questioning why a human engineer had such access to the heiress. Others saw potential in him as a stabilizing presence in her life. Lyra ignored the gossip, trusting her judgment over theirs. One evening, a minor crisis arose aboard the cruiser. A small energy fluctuation in the engine system threatened to shut down non-critical systems temporarily. Lyra's staff were tense, trying to follow protocols precisely. Ethan, calm and focused, quickly analyzed the problem. Within minutes, he identified the issue, a simple misalignment in the power conduits that he could adjust manually. Ethan, Lyra said after the problem was solved, you see clearly where others see only chaos. That is a gift. You do not just fix machines. You calm minds and create solutions. That is why I am drawn to you. Ethan smiled modestly. I just do what I can. It's not anything special. Lyra shook her head. No, it is special. That is why I trust you. That is why I hope you understand the importance of your presence here. Not as an employee or guest, but as someone who could matter more than anyone else in my life. Ethan felt a shiver of realization. He understood now that this was more than curiosity or casual visits. Lyra was testing him, observing him, and perhaps even hoping he would rise to a role he had never imagined. Over the following days, Ethan noticed subtle changes in the ship's atmosphere. Crew members treated him with quiet respect, listening when he offered suggestions. Lyra smiled at him often, but not in a way that demanded attention. She observed him, appreciated him, and seemed genuinely pleased by his presence. One afternoon, as they observed a small freighter passing in orbit, Lyra spoke softly. Ethan, there are pressures in my life that you cannot imagine. My family expects an heir. My advisors expect compliance. And the galaxy itself is filled with challenges that require strategy and influence. Yet, I find myself wondering if there is another way, a way to combine duty with heart, intelligence with honesty. Perhaps, with you, I could see it. Ethan felt a mix of awe and fear. He had never considered himself capable of influencing the life of a billionaire, let alone someone running an interstellar empire. Yet he could not deny the connection he felt with Lyra, the trust, the curiosity, and the small, quiet moments of understanding they shared. Lyra's voice softened almost a whisper. You may not realize it, Ethan, but your presence here is already changing things. Not only for me, but for how I view life, duty, and connection. That is something no one else has done. Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. I will do my best. I don't know what that means yet, but I will try. Lyra smiled, a faint glimmer of hope in her eyes. That is all I ask. Nothing more. Simply your honesty, your courage, and your presence. That is enough. And so, amid the grandeur of her cruiser, the hum of advanced engines, and the distant twinkling of stars, a bond quietly grew between the humble human engineer and the alien heiress. Ethan remained unaware of the full implications, but Lyra knew that her hidden agenda, the search for a partner of heart and mind, was already unfolding in ways she had never expected. The universe, vast and unpredictable, had brought them together. And though challenges awaited, one truth was clear. Sometimes the simplest human qualities could shine brighter than the wealth and power of a galactic empire. The space station shimmered under the soft light of distant stars as Ethan approached Lyra's cruiser for what he sensed might be a decisive visit. The weeks of quiet observation, small adventures aboard the ship, and shared moments of honesty and trust had built a bond neither of them could ignore. Yet the challenges of Lyra's world loomed ever closer. Her family, the advisors, and the expectations of an interstellar empire demanded attention and obedience. Still, Lyra had made her choice. She wanted Ethan not as a tool or a pawn, but as a partner. Ethan stepped aboard the cruiser, his toolkit slung over his shoulder, but he did not feel like a simple engineer today. There was a sense of purpose in his stride, a quiet confidence that had grown with each day spent with Lyra. She met him at the entrance, her silver hair catching the light, her violet eyes bright with emotion and resolve. "Ethan," she said softly, "thank you for coming. Today may be important for both of us." "I'm ready," Ethan replied simply. "Whatever comes, I'll be honest and I'll do my best." Lyra led him to the observation deck, where the vastness of space stretched before them, glittering with countless stars. "I have made decisions regarding my family and the Empire," she began, her voice calm but firm. "They have expressed their concerns, their expectations, and their disapproval of our connection. But I have chosen to follow my judgment, my heart, and my trust in you." Ethan's eyes widened. "You chose me? Despite everything?" "Yes," Lyra said, a faint smile forming. "Not because of status, wealth, or duty, but because of who you are. You are honest, courageous, and capable of seeing the world not as it should be according to rules, but as it truly is. That is rare and precious." Ethan felt a wave of warmth and awe. He had never imagined that a simple act of kindness, the hot drink at the cafe, could lead to this. Yet standing beside Lyra, he understood the depth of what they had built together. Before he could respond, a soft chime from the cruiser's communication system interrupted them. Lyra glanced at the console briefly. "It is my family council. They are requesting an audience. They have been informed of my decision and wish to discuss it further." Ethan tensed. "Are you worried?" Lyra shook her head. "No, I am resolved. I have chosen my path. But they will test us. Test you, whether intentionally or not. We must face this together, with honesty and courage." The council chamber aboard Lyra's cruiser was formal and imposing. Hollow displays floated in the air, showing star charts, economic reports, and diplomatic correspondence. Advisors, family representatives, and even distant allies were present. The air was tense with expectation. Ethan, standing beside Lyra, felt the weight of every gaze, every judgment, but he remained calm, guided by the trust he had built with her. The eldest of Lyra's family council spoke first. "Lyra, your decision is unexpected. A human engineer? Someone outside our culture and traditions? Explain why you insist on this choice." Lyra's voice was steady. "I choose Ethan not because he is human, not because he is unknown, and not because he is easily influenced. I choose him because he embodies qualities we have long neglected: honesty, courage, empathy, and wisdom. These qualities are more Valuable than status or wealth. A murmur ran through the council. Some frowned, skeptical. Others whispered quietly among themselves. Ethan, however, felt no fear. He spoke simply, with honesty and respect. "I don't claim to understand all the politics or rules of your world," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "I am not here for wealth, status, or power. I am here because I respect Lyra and care for her. I will support her honestly with courage and without deception. That is all I can promise, and all I intend to give." The room fell silent. The weight of his words, simple but sincere, seemed to ripple through the council. Lyra's gaze softened, proud of the human standing beside her. After a tense pause, the eldest council member spoke again. "Your words are clear, and your intentions seem sincere. Yet this decision affects not only Lyra but the Empire. Are you prepared for the responsibilities and challenges that will come with such a partnership?" Ethan nodded. "I cannot claim to know every challenge, but I can promise that I will face them with honesty, care, and courage. That is all I can offer, and it is enough for me." Lyra stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "See? This is why I trust him. He speaks honestly, acts with integrity, and approaches life with courage. That is what matters, more than titles, wealth, or tradition." The council murmured again, this time with a mixture of surprise and reluctant respect. Slowly, one by one, the members nodded. Some were still skeptical, but even they could not deny the sincerity radiating from Ethan and Lyra. Finally, the eldest, spoke. "Very well. We will respect your decision, Lyra. Though unconventional, your choice is made. We trust your judgment." Relief washed over Lyra, though she remained composed. She turned to Ethan, her eyes shining. "You have done more. Then prove yourself, Ethan. You have shown them and me that courage, honesty, and heart are more powerful than any rule or expectation." Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride, awe, and warmth. I'm just glad I could be honest and helpful. That's all I've ever wanted." Lyra laughed softly. "And that is exactly why you are extraordinary. It is why I chose you. It is why I trust you." The tension lifted and the two of them walked to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around them, calm and eternal. For a moment, the vastness of space seemed to echo the possibilities of their future. "I never imagined my life would be like this," Ethan said quietly. "From a small cafe to all of this, but I wouldn't change a thing, not for anything." Lyra smiled, her violet eyes soft and bright. "Nor would I, Ethan. You have reminded me that life is not just about duty, wealth, or expectation. It is about trust, courage, and connection. You have given me hope." Over the following weeks, Ethan and Lyra worked together to strengthen their bond in the operations of her cruiser. Ethan's engineering skills, combined with Lyra's leadership, created a partnership that was both effective and harmonious. They explored distant systems, helped struggling colonies with repairs and logistics, and even introduced small but meaningful improvements to trade and transport systems. Yet the greatest achievement was personal. They had built trust, understanding, and a shared vision for the future. Ethan learned the intricacies of Lyra's world, not as a pawn or observer, but as a partner. Lyra saw the human qualities she valued most, honesty, courage, and compassion, shine in every action Ethan took. One evening, as they stood together, on the observation deck, Lyra spoke softly. "Ethan, I want you to know that your presence here is more than a contribution to my life or the Empire. It is a gift. You have reminded me that life can be lived fully, with heart and honesty, even amid duty and expectation. That is priceless." Ethan took her hand gently. "Lyra, you've shown me a world I never imagined. One filled with stars, responsibility, and heart. I may be human, small in comparison to your empire, but I promise to stand by you, always." Lyra's eyes glistened with emotion, a mixture of relief, joy, and hope. "Then we will face the future together, Ethan. Not because we must, but because we choose to. And that choice will guide us through anything the galaxy can throw at us. From that moment, they moved forward as partners in life and purpose. Lyra's family and advisors continued to watch, but their concerns were softened by the visible strength and harmony of the human-alien partnership. Ethan and Lyra traveled across systems, blending their skills, knowledge, and compassion to improve lives and solve challenges. Through every adventure, repair, or negotiation, their bond grew stronger. Ethan's simple acts of honesty and courage became a foundation for Lyra's leadership. Lyra's wisdom, foresight, and guidance helped Ethan grow beyond his humble beginnings. Together, they were not just partners, they were a team, united by trust, heart, and shared vision. And as the stars stretched endlessly around them, they understood a truth that transcended worlds, species, and expectations. True connection, built on honesty, courage, and compassion, could bridge any distance and overcome any challenge. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but Ethan and Lyra faced it together, ready to write a future that was theirs alone. A future of partnership, love, and endless possibility. In the quiet glow of the observation deck, they stood side by side, hand in hand, looking at the stars. Ethan's heart was full of wonder, and Lyra's eyes shone with hope. They had found each other not by chance, but by trust, courage, and the simplest of truths. Kindness and honesty could change lives across the galaxy. And so the human engineer and the alien heiress began a new chapter, a life of shared adventures, challenges, and joys. The galaxy was theirs to explore, and together, they knew they could face anything.